If you had to choose between $100 million and one more year of life, which would you pick? This old man has tens of billions in assets, but his life is on a literal countdown. His sons are crowded around his deathbed, waiting to inherit his empire. And then, I suddenly appear. I pull out my pocket watch and give it a gentle flick. Instantly, his bodyguards freeze in place. Right above the old billionaire's head, a timer appears. 40 seconds of life remaining. Unhurried, I introduce myself. I am the time merchant, your only shot at survival. The price, however, is a mere $100 million. But despite looking like some mysterious, all-powerful master, yesterday I was still stressing over my rent. My name is Ye-on. I was just an ordinary office worker. But yesterday, during my usual commute home, I saw a 3-second countdown appear above a stranger's head. In the blink of an eye, that man was struck and killed by a speeding car. Right after, something even more unbelievable happened. Glowing numbers began floating above everyone's head. When I finally snapped out of my shock, I found a strange pocket watch sitting in my palm. The moment I pressed the button, the world around me slowed down 100-fold. But when I touched a random pedestrian, a sudden dread hit me. His lifespan was rapidly draining into my body. Panicking, I waved my hand and channeled a green light into a passing girl. The life I had just stolen had actually transferred into her. Clearly, I had awakened an incredible power. But while my power was over time, in a ruthless city like this, the real game was human nature. Once I realized what I could do, my very first priority was to make some serious money and become a merchant who trades in lifespans. To attract the wealthy elite, I needed a proof of concept, my first client. I emptied my bank account, preparing to buy some time. But the people passing by did not fit the bill. I refused to become a monster who casually steals human lives. But just then, the perfect candidate appeared. A young man working 10 different side gigs a day just to buy a phone for his crush. After collecting his meager pay, he sighed heavily. Once he finally finished work, he walked into a small diner and ordered some fried noodles. That is when I approached him. I pressed my watch, slowing down time 100-fold. The kid froze, completely terrified. I looked at him calmly and said, "You can call me the time merchant." He stared in disbelief, but the frozen world around him forced him to accept reality. I flicked a crimson light toward him, revealing his remaining lifespan. "You have quite a long life ahead of you. 66 years left. You will easily reach 80. So, Mr. Zheng, how about selling some of that extra time to me?" His eyes went wide as saucers. He trembled, asking if time could really be sold, and for how much. With a sharp snap, I slammed a briefcase onto the table. "I will buy 1 year of your life for 300,000, I said. He had never seen so much cash. He swallowed hard, clearly wavering. Seizing the moment, I pulled out a contract. "Just sign this, and the 300,000 is yours." He hesitated, thinking of the grueling daily grind of his 10 jobs. So, I delivered the final blow. "If you cannot make up your mind, I am leaving." That did it. "It is just 1 year, he spat. "I will sell it." I smiled, handing over the contract and the money. His hand shook as he signed. Instantly, the contract dissolved into glowing threads that flowed into my chest. His lifespan dropped by 1 year. "The transaction is complete. The money is yours," I said. He stared at the cash, a greedy smile spreading across his face. Before leaving, I offered my business card. "Call me if you ever need more." He pulled his hand back, raising his voice. "There won't be a next time," I chuckled, sliding the card onto the table. "Keep it. You will need it." I never expected my first deal to be so easy. Now, it was time to flip this time for a massive profit. I hopped online to search for candidates. A piece of breaking news caught my eye. The billionaire tycoon, Lin Zhengyuan, was clinging to life on a custom medical bed, his skeletal hand gripping the bedsheets with terrifying desperation. Every breath he took was a rattling, wheezing gasp. "Are they not here yet?" He roared with a final burst of desperate energy, glaring at the heavy wooden doors. "Chairman Lin, are you waiting for the doctor?" The young nurse stammered, her tray rattling in her hands. "Get the hell out of here!" he screamed, hurling a glass. It shattered against the wall with a sharp crack, but before the pieces could hit the floor, the lights began to flicker. The brightness was swallowed whole, plunging the entire room into an eerie, suffocating dimness. All sounds from the outside world were instantly cut off. I stepped out from the shadows of the corner, wearing a vintage black trench coat, a gold-rimmed monocle over my left eye. I was casually spinning my brass pocket watch, its hands whirring backward at a frantic speed. "Who are you? Are you the merchant?" Lin Zhengyuan looked like a drowning man grasping at a lifeline. He struggled to sit up, but the tubes connected to his body yanked him right back down. I want to buy time. I want to buy my life. I stopped at the foot of his bed, slightly narrowing my left eye. In my special vision, a glowing, terrifying countdown hovered right above his head. Only 3 minutes and 42 seconds remaining. Lin Zhengyuan, 72 years old, founder of the Ocean Group. My voice was quiet, steady, and devoid of any emotion. In this lifetime, you have amassed 30 billion in assets. You can indeed afford almost anything. I have money, Swiss bank accounts. I have $1 billion in cash, plus stocks and prime land. He gasped frantically, his words spilling out as if he was terrified his next breath would be his last. I want to buy a year. No, 10 years. I will pay any amount. Just give me time. A faint, mocking smile crept onto my lips. I tapped the air with my finger. You want 10 years? Certainly. But let's look at the exchange rate. A poor man's 1 year of life is worth 300,000. But a rich man begging for survival will easily pay 100-fold markup. $1 billion is indeed enough to buy you time into the next century. He went wild with joy, his cloudy eyes bursting with raw greed. Give it to me. Let us trade right now. However, my tone shifted, and my voice turned ice cold. My golden rule is that I do not trade with anyone carrying a deficit. What deficit? I have money. I have zero debt, he shrieked in desperation. I am not talking about money, I replied, looking directly behind his bed. In a dimension invisible to ordinary eyes, the entire room was crawling with thick, suffocating shadows. They morphed into tormented, screaming faces, the elderly driven to suicide by forced demolitions, miners buried in covered-up disasters, and competitors who jumped from buildings. Countless shadowy hands were choking his neck, greedily draining his remaining life force. Do you see them? My voice cut deep into his soul. This room is packed with your creditors. They are waiting for you to draw your final breath so they can tear you to shreds. Your time wasn't stolen by death. It was eaten by them. A cold shiver ran down his spine, a freezing dread penetrating his very bones. Save me! You are a master. You can banish these ghosts, right? I will double your money. I only buy and sell. I do not cast out demons, I replied, coldly shaking my head. I glanced down at my pocket watch. Besides, because of their constant gnawing, your time has severely depreciated. Right now, you are like a torn sandbag. No matter how much time I pour into you, it will leak out instantly. He collapsed back onto the mattress in absolute despair. Is there really no other way? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I watched him weep, feeling absolutely no pity, only observing him with cold, clinical detachment. I slowly stepped forward. While I cannot sell you time, I can offer you a different kind of deal. I leaned down, a cold light reflecting off my monocle. Sell me whatever little time you have left. In exchange, I will ensure you feel absolutely no pain in your final moments. You will pass away peacefully, as if you were simply falling asleep. But if I give it to you, I will only have minutes left. He froze. To be precise, 1 minute and 20 seconds. I corrected coldly. For someone like you, dying is filled with suffocation, agonizing pain, and absolute terror. Those vengeful spirits will make sure of it, ensuring you are torn to pieces in your hallucinations. But I can buy that agonizing final process from you. I won't sell. He shivered, but terror soon overwhelmed him. Fine. Deal. I extended my right hand, and a contract made of ancient parchment materialized out of thin air. Press your print here. Summoning his last ounce of strength, he shakily pressed his hand onto the contract. Instantly, the paper burst into flames, turning into golden chains that surged into his forehead. The transaction was complete. My pocket watch stopped spinning, letting out a sharp, mechanical click. I made a grasping motion over his chest, pulling out a wisp of grayish-white light. It condensed into a single grain of sand, falling straight into my crystal vial. His rapid breathing stopped instantly, and his tense facial muscles went limp. The terror in his eyes froze. He died quickly and cleanly, but in my special vision, those vengeful spirits suddenly lost their target. They lunged at his corpse, desperately fighting over the leftover remnants. Frowning in disgust, I turned around and walked into the shadows. A filthy soul's time smells rotten too. Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and medical staff rushed inside in a panic. No one noticed that in the shadows by the window, I had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a faint, otherworldly fragrance. The city's noise was shut out behind a heavy mahogany door. This place is an abandoned building that cannot be found on any map, but pushing open this door reveals a massive hall that defies the laws of physics. The ceiling is incredibly high, and floating in midair are countless clocks of various designs. Their constant ticking merges into a strange, steady rhythm, like the very heartbeat of this building. The walls are made of thousands of black drawers, each labeled with a number and a name. I slipped off my wet trench coat and tossed it aside. It hung itself automatically on the rack by the door. I walked to the black walnut desk in the center of the hall, sank into my high-backed velvet armchair, and pulled out the crystal vial containing Lin Zhengyuan's final second, holding it up to the light and giving it a gentle shake. The gray sand rolled across the bottom, completely lifeless. So this is all a man worth 30 billion leaves behind, I muttered to myself. I pulled open a drawer and tossed the vial inside, joining a heap of similar vials. Welcome back, boss. A girl wearing a Lolita-style dress stepped out from the shadows of the bookshelf. Her name is Hongdu. She is the manager of this exchange, and a puppet I created. We took a loss on this deal. I sighed, rubbing my temples. That old man's time was too low quality. I cannot extract much pure sands of time from it. But his death helped you avoid a backlash from the laws of karma, Hongdu said blankly, as the doll in her hand blinked its single eye. The system detected that if you had forced a sale of time to him, those vengeful spirits would have attacked the barrier of our exchange. I know, I sighed, taking a sip of my tea brewed from highly concentrated time. Who is the next appointment? Hongdu opened her heavy black leather ledger. Zhang Qiang, 42 years old, construction worker. Reason for appointment. Urgently needs 300,000. Send him in. The heavy front door opened again, and Zhang Qiang walked in, carrying a strong scent of sweat and plaster dust. He was wearing a faded camouflage uniform, nervously rubbing his rough, calloused hands. The muddy water on his boots stained the polished marble floor. Excuse me, do you really buy time here? He asked in a raspy voice, filled with extreme self-doubt and fear. I. My monocle sweeps over him. 38 years, 4 months, 12 days left. His life force is vibrant, his time pure and glowing a warm orange. Come in. No need to take off your shoes. No, I say, pointing to the chair opposite. How much do you want to sell? He edges forward, barely sitting on the corner of the seat. My daughter has leukemia. She needs a transplant. It costs at least 300,000. I have begged every relative, I even begged my boss on my knees, but still came up short. The massive man's eyes turn red, his voice cracking. I heard I can get cash here. I have plenty of strength. Just save Nunu. I will do anything. I do not fear hard labor. I do not want labor. I want your life. I slide a parchment contract toward him. 300,000 yuan. At current rates, that will cost you 20 years of your life. 20 years? He gasps, his eyes widening in shock. 20 years means instantly aging from prime to old age. I shrug. You can refuse. The door is right behind you. His hands tremble as his daughter's face flashes in his mind. The fear in his eyes hardens into absolute resolve. I will sell, he grits his teeth. If I get the cash today, I do not care if it is 20 years or 30. Deal. I snap my fingers. Hongdu brings out a tray stacked with 300,000 in crisp new bills. The moment he sees the money, Zhang Qiang gasps, his breath hitching. With a trembling thumb, he presses his print onto the parchment. Contract signed. Binding and irrevocable. I stand up, walk over, and place my palm flat against his forehead. This might hurt. Hold still. Before he can brace himself, I rip my hand back. Zhang Qiang screams, his entire body convulsing as if he is being torn apart. I drag a brilliant, glowing mass of liquid gold straight out of his chest. Within that golden mass, 20 years of his future possibilities flicker and fade. Deprived of his time, his hair turns snow white, his muscles wither, and his spine hunches. In 10 seconds, a robust 42-year-old collapses into a frail senior. I seal the golden glow inside a crystal vial. This pure time will easily net me 30 million, a massive profit. Zhang Qiang slumps back into the chair, wheezing heavily. His voice is raspy and old. My money, is it all here? I nod toward the tray. He reaches out with hands like withered bark, clutching the cash tightly to his chest. He struggles to his feet, his joints clicking under the strain. Watching his hunched figure shuffle toward the exit, I find myself asking, is it worth it? Without those 20 years, you will never see her graduate. He pauses, but does not look back. As long as she lives, I would pave her path with my corpse. The heavy doors slowly seal shut, swallowing his shadow. I look down at my hand, holding the warm, glowing crystal vial. Humans are such contradictory creatures. I swirl the liquid time. Some will slaughter thousands just to cling to life, while others will gladly throw themselves into the fire for someone else. Boss, Hongdu says, looking at the readings, this batch has an intense energy spike. Should I log it into inventory? She asks. No, I reply, slipping the vial into my inner coat pocket. I am keeping this one. Time enriched with such fierce, pure conviction is the perfect material to mend that thing. My hand drifts to my chest, feeling the jagged crack beneath my shirt that will never health the source of my eternal curse. Are we done for the day? I ask. No. Hongdu snaps. Her gaze darts toward the entrance. Suddenly, our security alarms blare. We have an anomaly approaching. An anomaly? I frown. The external sensors show an incoming life force whose lifespan readings are complete gibberish. I whip around toward the door. In a universe governed by strict temporal laws, gibberish means one thing. Someone has shattered the boundary between life and death. I deal in time. Just recently, I bought a single year from a college student and flipped it to a billionaire for 100 million. But right after taking 20 years from that desperate father to save his daughter, my sensors went off. A reading came up as total chaos. In this structured universe, everyone has a fixed expiration date. A corrupted reading means someone has bypassed death or something far worse has crossed over. Determined to find the truth, I venture outside in broad daylight. The sun stings my skin light as a luxury reserved for the living, while I am just a ghost, drifting in the shadows. But I had no choice. The glitch Hongdu picked up last night was brief, fading near the central hospital. Scanning the crowded streets, my eyes lock onto a figure standing right by the bus stop outside the clinic doors. A young woman in a white tee and jeans stands scrolling through her phone. But directly above her head, where her lifespan countdown should be ticking away, is a terrifying blur of static. The numbers are spiraling out of control. In my centuries on this earth, I have never seen a lifespan swing wildly between immortality and instant death. The crowd subconsciously steers clear of her. I fold my umbrella and step closer. The moment I cross the 5-meter mark, my watch begins to thrum with intense heat, the hands spinning erratically. Sensing the shift, she looks up, her gaze locking dead onto me. Deep within those clear, glassy eyes lies a chilling, bottomless void. Can you see me? I ask. She does not move her lips, yet her voice rings clear inside my head, a direct telepathic strike. My muscles lock. My hand slips into my coat, gripping my temporal hourglass. I tense, staring at her, demanding answers. Her lips curl into a faint, unsettling smirk. Right then, an out-of-control sedan mounts the curb, barreling straight toward her. Pedestrians shriek in terror, but as I watch, the world around us grinds to a near halt. This is not my doing. The fabric of time is collapsing around her. The instant the sedan strikes her, it hits an invisible wall, instantly corroding and weathering. The metal turns to rust, disintegrating into thin air. Tires burst, glass shatters, and in a single blink, the speeding car ages 1,000 years, crumbling into a heap of decayed scrap metal at her feet. The driver sits frozen in the exposed frame, completely untouched, staring blankly into the sudden, dead silence. The girl brushes invisible dust off her shoulder, looks right at me, and mouths 2 words, "Save me." Then, her eyes roll back, and she collapses. Instinct takes over, and I dash forward and catch her. The instant my skin brushes hers, a terrifying vacuum locks onto me. To my absolute horror, my massive reserves of time begin draining into her like a burst dam. My internal warnings scream. My lifespans are vanishing at a catastrophic rate. What kind of monster is this? I try to tear my hand away, but it is fused to her skin. In just 2 seconds, she drains 200 years of my life. If I do not break free, this immortality will leave me a withered husk. Desperate, I bite my tongue and spit blood onto my watch. Time freeze. Instantly, every raindrop, dust, mote, and sound within 10 meters locks in place, frozen in midair. Leveraging this brief suspension of reality, I tear myself from her grip. I stumble backward, gasping for air, staring down at the girl. She is a walking, breathing black hole of time, but my merchant instincts smell an unprecedented opportunity. If I solve her mystery, I might finally break this curse of immortality. I wipe the blood from my mouth. A second before time resumes, I sweep her up and vanish. Carrying her in my arms, I step through the clock wall of our showroom and enter our high-security vault, the Chamber of Stasis. Here, time dilation is near infinite. I lay her down on a carved black stone bed to suppress her leaking energy. Hongdu, activate the Level 3 containment field. I bark. Losing 2 centuries of life in seconds has left me pale and shaking. Standing by the door, Hongdu runs the sequence, throwing up a shimmering barrier, enclosing the bed. As the scanner runs its analysis, a siren blares. The volatile energy inside her is breaching the field. Hongdu's mechanical eye flashes red as she looks at me. Sir, she is not human. I pull off my heavy gloves, staring at her through the barrier. The field is warping her disguise. Through my left eye, the one that perceives the flow of time, what lies on that bed is no girl. It is a ravenous, human-shaped tempest. A swirling vortex of pure gravity. Her veins do not carry blood. They pump liquefied time with the roar of a raging river. Worse, there is no heartbeat. Just a jammed gear that fractures the surrounding space with every metallic click. She is a vessel. Someone jammed an astronomical amount of raw, unrefined time into her. This energy is highly unstable, crawling with dark impurities, ancient grudges, and tangled karma. The clashing timelines tear at her from within, turning her into a ticking temporal bomb. Who could do this? Hongdu whispers. Even the old Time Lords lack this kind of technology. Exactly, I say. That is what we need to find out. I pull out my warped brass watch and take a deep breath to steady my racing pulse. I am going into her mind. Hongdu tenses. That is suicide. Your remaining time is under a century. If her mind is an abyss, you will be trapped in the temporal slipstream forever. Even an immortal can end up brain dead. I have no choice. I need answers before she wakes. I give Hongdu a cold look and tell her to hold the perimeter. If I am not back in 10 minutes, trigger the self-destruct. Cast us both into the void. I close my eyes and reach through the barrier. I press my palm to her freezing forehead. Instantly, I am sucked into a violent, spinning vortex. The universe dissolves into a blinding kaleidoscope of light. A deafening chorus of screams, weeping, and curses hits my mind all at once. The mental assault nearly tears my soul apart. Gritting my teeth, I anchor myself in her psychic sea and force my mind's eye open. Before me stretches a sterile, endless white laboratory. Countless masked figures in white hazmat suits rushed about like ghosts. In the center of the hall stood a massive glass vat, filled with pale green fluid, fed by thick pipes. They pumped in a glowing liquid, highly condensed raw time. Suspended inside was that girl, looking only 7 or 8, curled like a fetus, her eyes and mouth sealed shut with tubes. She twitched in agony. Each spasm lit the vat with blinding light, forcing massive time into her frail body. Floating in midair, I watched this horrific experiment unfold before me. A lead scientist and his masked crew injected something into her, claiming they were creating an eternal god. When warned her soul would collapse, he scoffed, calling souls a trivial mortal concern. We only need a vessel, he said. As long as the flesh survives, god or demon makes no difference. He ordered another injection. The machines roared, and the green fluid began to boil. Suddenly, she snapped her eyes open pure, bottomless black. No sound left her mouth, but I felt a devastating mental storm erupt. Her silent scream tore my vision apart like shattered glass. The lab dissolved into fragments. A massive force ejected me, and I snapped awake in the real world. Stumbling backward, I grabbed the edge of the obsidian bed to steady myself. Panting heavily, cold sweat dripping from my forehead, I processed what I had just witnessed. On the laboratory wall, I saw their emblem, an Ouroboros snake, devouring a clock face. The mark of the Eternal Life Society. Hongdu rushed to support me, but I waved her away. Shock turned to disgust. They were trying to manufacture a god by stacking infinite time inside humans, creating a being that bypassed the laws of time. Just then, a rustle came from the stone bed. I whipped my head around. The unconscious girl had sat up, ignoring the light. Her hair drifted around her like floating seaweed, defying gravity. She stared straight at me, with impossibly clear, wide eyes. The confusion was gone. Now, her gaze held something else. Primal, insatiable hunger. Like a wild beast, she locked eyes with my chest, where centuries of my accumulated time essence lay. She tilted her head, her lips curling into an inhuman grin. She vanished. My pupils shrunk. Shoving Hongdu aside, I lunged right. The protective runes on my coat flared, but my left shoulder ruptured instantly, revealing 3 bone-deep gashes. No blood fell. The exposed flesh blackened instantly. She stood exactly where I had been, stuffing a torn piece of my bloodied coat into her mouth, ravenously savoring my lingering time essence on it. She swallowed, licked her lips, and locked eyes with me again. She was absolutely ravenous. Clutching my shoulder, I felt the skin rapidly aging. Her claws carried time-corroding rot. I needed pure time to wash it clean. I yelled at Hongdu to release all our Class C stock. She swiped her hand, and dozens of low-purity time vials flew out, shattering. Gray-white mist flooded the room. The girl spun, and lunged toward it, taking a massive breath. She sucked down centuries of ordinary time in a single, terrifying gulp. The red tint in her eyes finally faded, lifting the heavy pressure. With a loud burp, her body relaxed, and she drifted back to sleep on the stone bed. Silence returned. Leaning against the wall, I watched my wound heal at an agonizing crawl. This was no rescue. I had brought home a monster, but I couldn't throw her out. The Ouroboros logo hung over me like a dark shadow. If they mastered this power, the world's balance would shatter. As a top-time merchant, I was their prime target. This war had already begun. Meanwhile, outside the downtown hospital, police cordoned off the crash site. An inspector barked into his radio, calling in the Ninth Bureau and demanding all camera footage within 5 kilometers. "Find me a man in a black trench coat and the girl," he ordered. Back in the exchange, I was resting my bandaged shoulder when a grating screech pierced the air. The ticking stopped. A suffocating silence took over. Hongdu snapped her head up. I opened my eyes, my monocle glowing blue. Someone was forcefully breaching our hidden coordinates. Our rift defenses had failed. They were bleeding through the shadows. Across the floor, a dark silhouette pooled and rose, taking human shape. The figure was draped in pitch black. He wore a featureless mask marked with the Ouroboros. In his hands were twin blades of condensed time. "An assassin," I muttered coldly, as he lunged straight for my throat. To my eyes, his charge stuttered like a broken film strip. Just before his blades bit into my flesh, I clicked my pocket watch. Time slowed. The air turned to sludge. The killer froze in slow motion. Sidestepping the strike, I grabbed his wrist and channeled my power, draining every second of his borrowed time. His expensive gear withered away. His muscles shriveled. A raspy scream escaped his lips as his mask slipped, revealing a decayed, elderly face. "Who sent you?" I demanded. He rasped out, "The girl." Before he could finish, his body bloated, a self-destruct mechanism. I hurled him toward the doors, crossed my arms, and shouted for Hong Du to shield. A deafening blast shook the hall. A temporal storm shattered our clocks, throwing me back into the display cases. Vials smashed everywhere. Through the ruined doors, the cold rain of the real world poured in. Pulling myself from the debris, I wiped blood from my lip. This wasn't an assassination, it was a beacon. Outside, a crimson flare rose into the night, painting the Ouroboros in the sky. My sanctuary was compromised. Looking at the sleeping girl in the stasis field, I ordered Hongdu to pack our high-purity time and prep the escape. Her torn skirt revealed mechanical joints. I bent my flattened pocket watch back into shape. We go somewhere they won't expect. If they want a war, let's give them one. Right under the Ninth Bureau's nose, the clock tower. 3 a.m. in a torrential downpour. Inside the forbidden gear room of the city clock tower, space rippled. A dark rift tore open, and I tumbled out, cradling the sleeping girl. Hongdu followed, hauling 2 silver cases containing our entire life savings. I coughed up copper-tasting blood. The rift jump felt like it had scrambled my organs. I collapsed against a brass gear, gasping for air. "This temporal node is highly unstable, boss," Hongdu warned, setting the cases down. Her eyes projected scanning beams. "The massive gears create magnetic fields that disrupt our seals." "The messier, the better," I rasped, dusting off my coat. "Only inside this temporal chaos can those Ouroboros zealots lose our scent." I walked behind the clock face. Massive gears ground together with a deafening rumble. "Launch parasite mode," I ordered Hongdu. "Anchor our coordinates to the hourly bell chimes." "Risky," she replied, but her hands never stopped. Data cables slid from her fingers into the control unit. "If those gears stop, our space collapses." "Then pray they don't." I turned toward the girl. She looked so small, so harmless. But I knew she was a living weapon. I knelt and pulled out a red-labeled vial. Inside was distilled wrath, harvested from a dying killer. Pure, toxic garbage. I popped the cork. I waved it under her nose. Her nostrils flared, and her dark eyes snapped open. Sensing the toxic energy like a shark smelling blood, she bolted upright and inhaled the dark red mist. She swallowed with a look of pure ecstasy. My theory was correct. Clean time kept her breathing, but this polluted emotional sludge was her actual food. She didn't just consume time, she devoured consequence. She licked her lips, extending an open palm toward me. "No more," I said flatly, raising a finger. "If you want to eat, you listen to me. From today, you are my employee, not my master." She tilted her head, processing. Finally, she pointed to herself and grunted a single word. "Work." "Then get to it," I said, gesturing around. "Clean up this room. Hongdu will show you how." She blinked, then blurred. She began darting between the grinding brass gears, leaping with the effortless, silent grace of a cat. Give him a name, Hongdu said, building the hollow wall. System won't log an unknown species. Watching his excited back thrilled from devouring a killer, I murmured, let's call him Meow. A fleeting second decides life or death. File created. Code name. Meow. Class. S rank. Hongdu's voice was flat. A bit lazy, boss, but it definitely fits your taste. Meow drifted down, pointing at his belly. I walked to the glass, overlooking the city lights. In my eyes, this metropolis is just a pasture of glowing emotions. They want to play God? I'll take their deity and devour their whole nest. Ruthlessness flared. I tapped the glass. At 4 a.m., the bell tolled, sending invisible ripples across the city. The new time exchange was officially open. At dawn, inside the police office, red lines on the whiteboard converged on a blurry figure in a black trench coat. Captain Chen, 9th Bureau is here. A nervous young cop opened the door. Chen Feng crushed his cigarette. A man and woman entered. 9th Bureau, tactical. Lei Lai, the calloused buzz-cut man said. Tech. Su Wen. The cold woman holding a tablet nodded. Chen Feng skipped the handshake, pointing to the chairs. The legendary 9th Bureau. What brings you here? Just that crushed car? Lei Lai shook his head. It is much more than that. Lei Lai sat down. Captain Chen, you're on the right track. But this is way above your clearance. This goes far beyond local crime. Su Wen tapped her tablet, projecting a video onto the whiteboard. On screen, the moment the black-coated man grabbed the girl, the raindrops froze in midair for 3 seconds. Look closely. Su Wen pointed at the timestamp. The security clock skipped those 3 seconds. A localized time field. This isn't Magician's super-powered crime. We've tracked this target, the time merchant, for 5 years, Lei Lai muttered. He's incredibly elusive, constantly on the move. Yet every appearance brings disappearances or bizarre deaths. Chen Feng frowned. You call him a criminal, but look at his victims. Lin Zhengyuan ran a scam that drove people to suicide, and last night that withered hitman was an internationally wanted ghost. He's preying on bad guys. That's the problem. Lei Lai's gaze chilled. He steals and grants lifespan at will. Left unchecked, that power destroys society. Imagine if the rich could just buy extra life. The law becomes meaningless. Chen Feng fell silent, remembering Zhang Qiang, who sold 20 years of his life for 300,000. We just flagged a massive energy spike, Su Wen typed fast. Last night at 4 a.m., a brief magnetic pulse hit the clock tower. The waveform perfectly matches the time merchant's signature. The clock tower! Chen Feng bolted up. That's downtown. If he does something there, which is why we strike before he settles in, Lei Lai stood. My bureau has already locked down the perimeter. Captain Chen, we need your team to handle the perimeter evacuation. Fine, Chen Feng grabbed his coat. But on one condition. I'm there for the bust. Lei Lai nodded. Deal. Just prepare yourself. We might not be dealing with a human. Meanwhile, inside the clock tower, my new shop was ready. I folded space within the massive gears, shaping a retro steampunk hall. Welcome. Hongdu's voice chimed with polite fake warmth. The massive mechanical doors hissed open. A man bundled in a thick coat, mask, and sunglasses hurried inside, nervously glancing over his shoulder, as if hunted. Our very first customer. Can you really make my trouble go away? He pulled down his mask, revealing a gaunt face. His neck was covered in coin-sized black scales. High on my gear throne, I scanned him through my monocle. Zhao Tianyu, 24. Wealthy heir. Lifespan. Garbled code. Not from raw power, but contamination. You consumed something you shouldn't have, I said coldly. He dropped to his knees, shivering. Help me, please! I don't want to die! I was just having fun. There's this drug on the black market elixir of youth. They said a single drop grants boundless energy, youth, even a taste of the ultimate high. So I bought one. He shakily produced a small glass vial with leftover green liquid. I was buzzing for days. But then these spots broke out. Now I see ghosts. Not ghosts, I said, taking the vial with a handkerchief. Even through glass, I felt the chaos inside. Raw, chaotic temporal energy. It's a crude poison brewed from stolen years by the immortals. Drinking it means swallowing the rage of the dead. It's eating your life, I warned. 3 more days, and you'll be a heap of rotting flesh. I'll pay. Anything. My dad is the CEO of Zhao Group. I don't care about money. I cut in. But I want its source. Where did you buy it? Elysium Club, he sobbed. Save me, and I'll take you inside. I'm a VIP. Well, look at that. A clue right on my doorstep. Deal. I snapped my fingers. Hongdu, prep for extraction. Let's clean out this idiot's tainted time. On it, Hongdu replied, flicking a silver scalpel. I glanced toward the dark corner. Meow. Dinner's ready. The shadow shifted, and Meow crept out, eyes locked on those black scales. Drool pooled at his mouth. Can I eat those? A greedy red glow flared in his eyes. Only the spots. Leave the human intact, I ordered. Meow whined in disappointment, then pounced. A blood-curdling scream shook the tower. Meow sank his teeth into the man's neck, drinking the dark corruption. The scales dissolved rapidly, though the agony was absolute. I stared at the green vial, my eyes turning icy. Elysium Club. The Immortals. Reach into my territory, and I'll chop your hands off. I pocketed the vial and adjusted my collar. Hongdu, watch the shop. Meow, wipe your mouth. We have a club to wreck. The club was buried deep beneath a bustling shopping district. The elevator plunged. A minute later, the doors slid open to a sickeningly sweet wave of champagne, expensive cigars, and rotting orchids. Under dazzling lights, crowds writhed to a wild electronic beat. Their eyes were hollow, their skin gleaming with a bizarre, plastic, sheen classic side effects of the elixir. Meow, wearing a black lace tutu, shuffled behind me, her wide eyes darting around. It stinks, she whispered, wrinkling her nose. Smells like mold. In her eyes, this was a literal dumpster fire. The dancers were draped in shreds of stolen time, reeking like rotting meat. Patience, I murmured. It is not feeding time yet. A host spotted the black gold VIP card in my hand, quickly flashing a deferential grin. Ah, Mr. Zhao's guest. Right this way to the VIP lounge. Big game tonight. He pushed open heavy mahogany doors. Inside, it was dead silent except for clinking chips. Around the table sat the city's elite. But the real standout was Madame Red, the dealer in a dark crimson dress. An Ouroboros tattooed her wrist. A new face, she purred, pausing. We don't bet money here, just lives. Have you got the collateral? I pulled up a chair. I placed the crystal vial containing Zhang Cheng's 20 years of life on the table. Its glowing, golden sand instantly outshone the chandeliers. Sharp gasps rippled through the room. Grade 1, prime golden years. A priceless, highly sought-after treasure. Greed flared in Madame Red's eyes. Exquisite. What do you want to play? High or low? I leaned back. One round. If I win, I see your boss. If I lose, you keep this. And my life. The boss? Madame Red scoffed. Let's see if you survive long enough to meet him. She slammed down the cup, shaking it furiously. It wasn't just dicate, it was sonic hypnosis designed to induce panic and errors. But to me, it was laughably slow. 3 sixes. A perfect triple. She slammed the shaker down, smiling with absolute confidence. Place your bets. High or low? The other players smirked. I smiled, feeling nothing but pity for such a cheap parlor trick. I bet on 0. Madame Red's brow furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means your cup is empty. I tapped the air, localized time reversal. An invisible ripple penetrated the cup. On a microscopic level, I rewrote the last 30 seconds inside, reverting it to before the dice were ever put in. Open it. I gestured smoothly. Madame Red whipped the cup away. Dead silence. The tray was empty. The ivory dice had reverted back into the host's pocket. Cheater! You dared cheat! Madame Red shrieked, slamming her hands down. A dozen armed guards in black burst from the shadows. Nobody can cheat time, I murmured, slowly pocketing the crystal vial. You lost. Pay up. Isn't that the sacred rule of your immortals? Kill him. Madame Red's face split open, exposing a black metallic skull. A combat cyborg. Meow. Get to work, I muttered, taking a half step back and snapping my fingers. Meow snapped her head up. Her clear eyes instantly turned pitch black, and her mouth split to her ears, showing shark-like fangs. She vanished, and the next second, the lead bodyguard shriveled like a punctured balloon. He collapsed, a dry mummy. His gun clattered to the floor as Meow reappeared behind him, chewing on his remaining 40 years of life. Disgusting. Tastes like pure hormones, she grumbled, never stopping her hunt. It was a complete slaughter. These genetically modified bodyguards stood no chance against a time devourer. Bullets hitting me instantly corroded into rusty dust. Monster! You're that monster! Madame Red screamed in recognition. Subject 7 tried to flee in terror, slamming the self-destruct button under her desk. Wanna run? I teleported in front of her, pinning her shoulder. Time stripped away the cybernetic body that supposedly kept her young for 200 years. Instantly, a painful screech of metal fatigue rang out. Her organic tissues rapidly aged, and her steel bones rusted. My face. My time. In just 5 seconds, Madame Red became a pile of rusted metal and rotting flesh. The club violently shuddered as alarms blared. The self-destruct sequence was active. Let's go, Meow. Stop eating, or you'll get indigestion. I pulled her away, but she hesitated. Boss, wait, there is something big down there. Meow pointed at the floor. Something huge is down there. Smells amazing. I looked down, my monocle piercing the concrete. Deep in the third-level basement cold storage, thousands of vials of fairy water raw solution surrounded a massive pool. In the center floated a massive, beating purple heart radiating temporal ripples. It was the remnant of an ancient god. My pupils contracted. The Immortality Society actually dug up this? No wonder they could mass-produce fairy water. If I can't take it, I'll destroy it. I pulled out a coin-shaped bomb compressed from 1,000 years of dead time, dropping it down the gap. Counting down 7 seconds, I triggered a spatial jump. As we vanished, the coin sank into the pool. No fire, just gray-white. The gray-white dead silence instantly spread. The purple heart froze, crumbling like weathered rock. With its core destroyed, the club's flow of time collapsed. Walls peeled and decayed, and the ravers on the dance floor rapidly aged mid-laugh, collapsing into dry bones. This underground cancer of Haicheng aged to death in a single night. Above the ruins of the Elysium Club, triple blockades were established. Ninth Bureau agents clad in fully sealed hazmat suits were clearing the remaining temporal radiation. Chen Feng stood at the edge, frowning deeply as mummified corpses were carried out. The identity cards of the deceased showed most were only in their 20s or 30s, but the autopsies revealed a biological age of over 100. This is what happens when you're drained of time. Lei Lai walked over, handing Chen Feng a cigarette. No survivors in the club. The building's structural aging exceeds 500 years. Only the time merchant possesses this kind of destructive power. He's helping us wipe out this poison. Chen Feng lit his cigarette and took a deep drag. I checked. This was their main hub. He did us a favor. A favor? Lei Lai sneered, pointing at the panicked crowd. Look at this chaos. Hundreds of people aging to death overnight. Public panic is bubbling over, and the internet is flooded with rumors of lifespans being stolen by vengeful ghosts. If order collapses, it'll be far deadlier than drugs. Su Wen approached with a tablet, his face grim. Director Chen, Captain Lei, we extracted a high-concentration sample of fairy water from the basement residue. The analysis is done. Half of its components consist of human cerebrospinal fluid. What? Chen Feng's stomach churned. This meant the Immortality Society wasn't just selling time, they were literally consuming humans. Su Wen pushed up his glasses. Furthermore, the residual temporal ripples prove Ye On didn't just destroy the facility, he took a vital energy source. This will absolutely infuriate the Immortality Society. Meanwhile, at the clock tower, I slumped in my chair, utterly exhausted. Using time rewind and spatial jumps repeatedly, plus detonating that 1,000-year bomb, had completely drained my energy. Meow, though, was full of life. Last night's buffet had stuffed her. She was currently sprawling over the massive table, gazing down while humming a creepy nursery rhyme. Hongdu was setting up an IV drip for me, infusing liquefied, high-purity time. Boss, we have an incoming encrypted transmission, Hongdu suddenly announced. The signal is impossible to trace. They are using quantum entanglement encryption. I opened my heavy eyes as the holographic projector lit up. No face appeared only a spinning Ouroboros emblem. The background was filled with a deafening mechanical roar. Yi An, the time merchant? A voice-modulated metallic voice buzzed. I am the doctor. Quite an honor. I stared coldly at the emblem. I smashed your fairy water factory. Care to complain? The doctor let out a grating laugh. That was merely a discarded petri dish. Your destruction of it actually proved the strength of our escaped specimen. It seems you've raised Subject 7 quite well. My gaze turned ice cold, glancing over at Meow. She's not a specimen. She has a name. Names are just labels. Only function matters. The doctor's voice grew fanatical. Ye On. You think you control time? No. You are merely its parasite. But I am about to become its master. What are you getting at? Since you love playing the savior, let me send you a grand gift. The doctor chuckled. I have released the original Sin Spore into Haicheng's water supply and air filtration networks. An upgrade of fairy water? It requires no ingestion. All it takes is breathing. I bolted upright. You are insane. You want to drag the entire city to the grave with you? Not the Gravia harvest, the doctor replied with bone-chilling calmness. In 30 minutes, the first wave of infected will enter temporal hibernation. Their minds will remain fully awake, but their physical time will freeze. That stolen time will channel directly to me through our spore network to awaken the true God. You have only two choices. Ye An, either return Subject 7 to me for the antidote, or cling to your pathetic justice, and watch this city become a massive tomb of the living dead. The transmission cut off. I stared at the blank screen, my chest heaving. I ripped the IV tube out, letting blood drip onto the floor. Hongdu, scan the entire city for vital signs right now, I roared. Her eyes instantly dissolved into streams of high-speed data before screaming a red alert. Warning, warning. Mass anomalies detected in District C and D. Heart rates of thousands are plummeting while brain activity spikes, yet all physical functions have frozen. It had begun. Stumbling to my feet, I walked over to the window. It was peak morning rush hour, but the intersection had turned into a ghost town. Pedestrians stood frozen like powered-off robots. Drivers sat with hands limp. Out-of-control cars tapped guardrails without exploding. Even inertia seemed completely neutralized. This wasn't death. This was collective temporal stasis. Countless microscopic streams of light, invisible to the naked eye, drifted from these frozen bodies, channeling deep underground. This was a massive trap using millions of souls as fuel. Boss, what do we do? For the first time, fear crept into Hongdu's voice. Countering a curse of this scale, even if we burn through our entire inventory, we can barely save anyone. I stared down at the frozen crowd, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. When I opened them, only a fire of absolute resolve remained. I turned to Meow. Are you still hungry? I asked. Meow nodded, casting a fearful glance out the window. Lots of food, but it's poisoned. Even if it's poison, we eat. I walked over to the weapon rack and grabbed the relic of the first-time merchant, the massive black scythe absolution. Hongdu, shut down every defensive barrier we have. I touched the cold blade, pouring all my remaining energy into my pocket watch. What are you planning? The doctor wants to harvest the city's time. I turned up my collar, a crimson flare flashing across my monocle. Then I'll burn his granary to ash. If he's the virus, we are the antivirus. Move out. The hunt is on. A sickly gray-green fog silently swallowed the city. In my vision, this haze was composed of billions of microscopic, temporal vampire parasites. They took root inside people's lungs, replacing blood with a green nutrient sludge. I roared down the highway on my heavy black motorcycle, Meow clinging tightly to my waist. Boss, it smells like rotting garbage out here. I'm scared. It's everywhere. Everyone is sleeping, but they look like they're hurting. Then don't look. Don't breathe. I twisted the throttle. The source was the northern water plant, the perfect artery for the doctor's poison. 20 minutes later, we skidded to a halt outside the gates. The silence was deafening. Feeding time. Meow. I unsheathed my scythe. Meow leaped off, pointing suddenly at the security booth. Someone is in there, but he's walking backward. We stared. A security guard with a network of green veins pulsing across his face was walking backward in a stiff, looped Cyclia watchdog, locked in a time loop. I swung my scythe, rusting the heavy lock to dust. The gates swung open. The guard snapped out of his loop. His neck twisted 90 degrees, his pale eyes locking onto us. Screaming, he charged, the green veins beneath his skin glowing with explosive energy. Don't touch him, I barked, raising my left hand. The temporal wave hit him, freezing him midair as his colors faded like a washed-out painting. Deprived of the host's time, the green spores withered into dust. He collapsed to the ground, alive but unconscious. These spores possess a hive mind, I muttered, staring at the black dust with a heavy heart. If they detect an intruder, they force the host to self-destruct, spreading more spores. We must be careful. This place is likely crawling with them. Crossing the front plaza into the core sedimentation tank, the sight was nauseating. The massive open pool was filled with thick green slime. Hanging densely above were workers wrapped in cocoons of green vines. The thorns on the vines pierced, needles pierced their spines, draining their life into the green water. They are still alive, eyes wide with terror. Every breath they take powers this bioreactor. So this is the doctor's granary. I grip my scythe. My knuckles turn white. He turned this place into a giant human battery. Meow stares at the green vines, her eyes flashing red. Flowing inside them is the stolen time of countless soul-stangled, chaotic, and desperate. Can you eat it? I ask. Meow hesitates, then shakes her head. Too filthy. It will make my stomach hurt. Then we burn it. I pull out a lighter, flickering with a pale, cold flame purgatory fire meant to incinerate karmic debt. Just as I prepare to ignite the vines, the green water boils. A massive vortex forms, and a monstrosity stitched from flesh, blood, and metal slowly rises. Its core is a giant centrifuge, its outer shell draped in thick human skin, with countless agonizing faces sewn into a twisted mask. Perched on top is a man in a white lab coat and gold-rimmed glasses. He has no lower body. His waist fuses directly into the green tubes, becoming one with the factory. It is a holographic clone of his consciousness. "Welcome to my Eden, Ye-An," the man says, adjusting his glasses as his voice echoes through the speakers. "Doctor," I say, staring coldly. "Your taste is as trash as ever." "Trash? No. This is the ultimate efficiency." The doctor spreads his arms. "Look at these mortals. They waste their precious lives. But here, every single second is converted into pure energy. I am helping them maximize their worth, turning humans into batteries. That is your idea of worth?" I point my scythe at his throat. "I am shutting your power down right now." "You can try," he sneers. "But let me remind you, this reactor connects to all of Haicheng's underground water. Even better, the lives of these 3,000 workers are bound to the core." He flicks his finger, and the hanging workers shriek in agony, convulsing violently. "If you force cut the power or attack the core, all 3,000 will instantly die. Their time will collapse from the backlash, releasing an energy wave big enough to level half of Haicheng. Ye-An, aren't you the savior? The champion of fair trade?" The doctor mocks me. "So let's trade. Either walk away and let me finish my work, or swing that scythe and personally slaughter 3,000 innocents to stop me. This is your trolley problem." The air freezes. Sensing my murderous rage, Meow shrinks behind me. I stare at his monocle, watching the data scroll wildly. There is no way to bypass this symbiotic lock. They all live, or they all die. Can't bring yourself to do it? The doctor sneers. "So your coldness is just a facade. Your heart is too soft, Ye-An. That is why, despite your immortality, you are just a petty merchant, while I am destined for godhood." I take a deep breath and slowly lower my scythe. "You are right," I say calmly. "I am a merchant." I pull out my counterclockwise pocket watch, the cursed source of my immortality. Merchants do not make bad deals, and killing 3,000 people is a terrible trade. "So you surrender?" the doctor asks. "No," I laugh, fueled by pure, desperate madness. "I just thought of a different transaction. What happens if the energy in these batteries is too much for you to handle?" His smile fades. "What?" "It means I crush the pocket watch." A blinding, colorless light erupts, engulfing the entire chamber. "I am selling you all of my time," I roar, launching myself straight into the glowing green vortex. "What are you doing, you lunatic?" The doctor finally panics. "Your time is stagnant. You will poison the entire network." Spot on. I tear through the vines and dive headfirst into the thick green fluid. "Eat up, you bastard. Choke on it." Inside the reactor is a chaotic swirl of green energy rushing toward a massive central heart. Floating inside this high-pressure torrent, I stop suppressing my curse of immortality. A heavy, decaying gray tide begins to rise. "Come on! You wanted energy? Take it!" I fling my arms open. My gray, stagnant time surges backward through the vines, flooding his entire network. Outside, the doctor's holographic projection screams in agony. "Stop! Turn it off! What kind of garbage time is this?" It is too heavy for the system. The boiling green water coagulates. The vines blacken and rot, and the workers' agonized expressions begin to soften. The siphon on their life force is blocked. My stagnant power severs their connection to the core. Overload. System overload. Core failing. Cold alarms blare across the factory. "No! My ascension!" The doctor screams. "Ye-An, do you want us both to die? Injecting this much time will destroy your body first. You will be a useless husk." My skin cracks under the pressure. My dark hair instantly bleaching bone white and shedding. I am burning my soul, draining my immortal source. Through the haze, flashbacks of the day I traded for immortality centuries ago flicker before me. I have always hated this curse. Yet now, I feel a strange relief. So this is death. I whisper to myself, it is not so bad. Just as I am about to vanish, a small hand grabs my collar. "Boss, do not sleep," Meow yells, braving the chaotic energy to reach me. Wounds tear open across her skin, spilling black blood, but her eyes burn with wild fury. "He is mine," she shrieks at the green energy, her mouth expanding into a literal black hole that devours the vortex. The stagnant energy and the doctor's residual mind are sucked into the void. Within seconds, The core is bone dry. Meow lets out a massive burp, her eyes flashing red as golden scales ripple across her skin. She just ate half a god. Scooping up my withered, unconscious body, she whispers, "Boss, let us go home." As the core dies, the gray fog over Haicheng melts away. On the streets, frozen citizens shudder back to life, entirely unaware they just cheated death. A Ninth Bureau helicopter touches down at the ruined water plant. Lei Lai and Chen Feng jump out, finding only charred ash and 3,000 stable, breathing workers. "We are too late," Chen Feng says, staring at a shattered black scythe in the pit. He saved them and vanished. Lei Lai picks up the warm metal. The doctor's signature is gone. Yan won this round. But, Su Wen warns, checking his monitor, the energy signature shows Yan's life signs are nearly zero. He might be Lei Lai pockets the blade. Until we see a body, this file stays open. Find him. Dead or alive, I want him found. 3 days later, in a quiet clinic backyard hidden deep in the old Districta safe house even Hongdu does not know about, I wake up. My once ageless face is now creased with wrinkles. My hair pure white. I feel fragile, like a 50-year-old man. My pocket watch is shattered. Immortality is gone. Running through my veins is just a mortal's ticking clock. Remaining lifespan. For the first time, I can see my own countdown in the mirror. I cough, my chest rattling. As I reach a shaking hand toward my tea, a pale hand gently guides it to my lips. Meow kneels beside me, looking like a teenage girl, her eyes clearer than before. "Drink, boss," she says softly. I take a sip and smile weakly. I am just a broken old man now. I have no more time to feed you. You should go. With your power, no one can stop you. Meow shakes her head, resting it on my lap. I am staying. You fed me all those years. Now I will take care of you. She looks up, gold light glinting. The doctor is still alive. I swallowed a piece of his soul. He escaped to the other side of the gate. Boss, should we go finish him off? I stare out at the dusty sunset. A faint, hard spark ignites in my eyes. 3 years is short like a joke, but it is the first time I have ever truly owned my own days. Absolutely, I say, struggling to sit straight. My pride remains unbroken. Hell or the void, he still owes me. Help me up, Meow. We have one last transaction to close. The laws of physics do not apply beyond the gate. Here lies a gray wasteland. No sun warms the sky. Giant, broken gears spin in the air like stars, and the ground is built of shattered memories, forming endless dunes. Step on them, and you hear infants crying, lovers whispering, and dying confessions. This is the temporal rift, a trash heap of discarded timelines. Leaning on my broken scythe, I drag myself forward as the sand swallows my ankles. Dead memories claw at my legs, trying to drag my soul down. I have aged horribly. Opening this gate cost me another year of life. Now my back is hunched, age spots cover my skin, and I wheeze like a broken bellows. Boss, let me carry you, Meow pleads, looking back with deep worry. In this rift, her powers have peaked. The chaotic timeline energy is pure candy to her. Her black gothic dress billows, and the silhouette of a massive shadow tail flickers behind her. No, I say, wiping blood from my lip. I must walk this path myself. It is a debt collector's ritual. Ahead of us rises a massive, suffocating fortress stitched together from old clock towers, cathedral spires, and modern skyscrapers. It hangs upside down, defying gravity, with massive conduits draining power from the ground. This is the doctor's new sanctuary. He has rebuilt his kingdom. I narrow my cloudy old eyes, observing the real world could not hold his ambition, so he fled here to rule this wasteland. Suddenly, a deafening rumble shakes the sand. The dunes ahead explode, and a dozen mechanical beasts claw their way out. Cleaners with scorpion bodies. Their joints were like clockwork, their tails massive stone needles dripping corrosive acid. Intruders detected. Purge! Mechanical scorpions closed in with screeching electronic whirs. But Meow and I did not stop our pace. Meow licked his lips excitedly and vanished. Instantly, the battlefield became a slaughterhouse. He was so fast he barely seemed to move, existing everywhere at once. Crack! He savagely snapped off a mechanical scorpion's tail, throwing it to pierce another's core. So crunchy and delicious. He bit into the scorpion's solidified time alloy shell like a crisp potato chip. Like a black whirlwind, he swept through the squad. Parts flew, gears shattered. I walked through the battlefield without even looking up. Any stragglers trying to attack me rusted and fell apart before getting within 3 meters. I am a walking source of entropy. To these machines running on order and energy, I am pure poison. We stood beneath the Daoxuan temple, stepping into the gravity-reversing beam. Meow and I floated upward. The temple's interior was sickeningly luxurious, with crystal floors and walls embedded with tens of thousands of still-beating hearts. The doctor's trophy hall. At the end sat a colossal figure, his lower half fused with machinery, his upper body grossly bloated. Under his translucent, gelatinous skin, multicolored lights flowed a mutation from forcibly merging chaotic timelines. "You have arrived, old friend," the doctor's layered voice echoed. "Look at you, Yeon, the time merchant who once terrified the gods reduced to this state, reeking of old age. How much lifespan do you have left? 3 years? 2? 2 years and 7 months, I replied calmly, finding a chair to sit down. More than enough to kill you. Kill me? The doctor waved his hand, making the walls transparent. Surrounding the temple were thousands of incubation pods holding embryos. See this? This is my new humanity project. In this rift world, I am the creator. I can adjust the flow of time at will. 1 day here equals 100 years outside. I have been evolving here for 10,000 years. You still use outdated physical attacks, while I have mastered time editing authority. The doctor raised his finger and pointed at me. Kneel! An irresistible force of rules descended. My kneecaps felt like they aged 50 years in an instant. Piercing pain hit, making my legs buckle. Do not bully my boss! Meow rushed in front of me, raising a black barrier to withstand it. Under this supreme absolute command, Meow spat out blood, suffering a severe blow. That little glutton evolved quite well, the doctor said greedily, staring at him. Once I consume you, I will complete the final puzzle and truly become a 4-dimensional being. I supported Meow's shoulder and stood tall again. Despite the cold sweat from the pain, my spine remained straight. Doctor, you've got one thing wrong. I pulled out a stack of yellowed old paper copies of all the contracts I had signed over hundreds of years. You think power equals authority? No. In this universe, the only supreme authority is transaction. This is a wasteland. Every grain of sand is a bad debt left by the dead. I threw the contracts into the air. I am the time merchant. Even bad debts can be packaged and transferred. The contracts burned in the sky, turning into golden chains that stabbed into the ground and walls. What are you doing? The doctor asked, panicked. I am launching a crowdfunding campaign from the billions of souls in this realm. My voice sounded old and grand. I offer this final, aging body of mine as collateral. In exchange for your right to collect his debts, the entire rift world boiled. The dunes of memories surged, and countless blurry faces roared, scrambling toward the temple. This was an uprising of the dead, my financial tsunami. Madman, you have opened the gates of hell, the doctor shrieked. Gray-white resentment poured into the temple along the chains, eating through the walls to devour the mechanical devices, tearing at his gelatinous skin. Get away, you trash! I am a god. I am eternal. The doctor lost control, forced to lift all restrictions. Since you want to die, I will grant your wish. His body began to swell violently and tear apart. Creak. Creak the sound of bones growing and metal stretching. The doctor exploded and reassembled into a 100-meter-tall, mind-shattering time behemoth. The monster's core was a massive sphere composed of countless living eyeballs. Its torso was woven from thousands of brass gears and bloody muscle fibers. It had no legs. Its lower half connected to the void, with countless tentacles made of time scales thrashing about. Warning. Target energy level has exceeded the limit and cannot be analyzed. My monocle shattered instantly, glass shards slicing my eyelid as blood trickled down. So, this is the mythical form I cupped my bleeding left eye. The monster was not just huge, it even warped the flow of time around it. Near the left tentacles, time flew and things decayed. Near the right, time reversed and things regressed. Die! The monster roared with a metallic, electronic voice as a colossal time tentacle swept toward us. Boss, look out! Meow roared, instantly transforming into a pitch-black shadow wolf with Nine-Tailed true form as a time-devouring beast. The black wolf lunged at the tentacle, taking a huge bite and devouring its energy. Sparks flew, and Meow broke 2 teeth. Get lost, insect! A giant mechanical claw slammed down, smashing Meow into the floor. The crystals shattered, and Meow cried out in agony, half his bones crushed. My heart sank. The situation was desperate. Physical attacks failed, energy attacks failed, and the army of the dead I summoned had been scattered by the radiation. Yeon, it is your turn. The massive eyeball core turned toward me, a destructive beam charging. I will make a specimen out of you, imprisoned in my clock face forever, standing in the ruins, watching Meow struggle. A deep sense of helplessness washed over me. Is this the limit of a mortal? I pulled out a half bottle of emergency time and poured it onto the ground. The liquid spread like a mirror. Doctor, have you heard of Schrodinger's cat? I asked, weak yet eerily calm. Still trying to teach physics on your deathbed? The doctor's beam fully charged. D. A blinding white light engulfed me instantly. The temple shook violently as the foundation collapsed. As the dust cleared, the doctor laughed maniacally. It is over. No more time merchant in this world. His laughter stopped abruptly. In the center of the crater, I was still standing. My clothes were ashes, my skin scorched black. Floating before me was a burning black contract made of pure nothingness. What is that? The doctor felt a shudder from the depths of his soul. This is my absolute last product. My voice sounded hollow. I used to wonder who we were trading with. Then I understood we are just middlemen. The real boss is time. Doctor, in your quest for immortality, you devoured time and turned yourself into a massive counter-commodity. It is too eyesore. I shoved my hand into the black contract. I did not use the dead to attack you earlier. I just used them to mark you. Mark you for him. I pulled my hand back, holding a closed gray eye. Instantly, the world fell into absolute stillness through death, with no past, no future, only eternal silence. This is the eye of finality. I smiled calmly, my body starting to scatter like sand in the wind. I traded all my remaining lifespan, and the very existence of my soul just to open this eye once. Doctor, you wanted to see the ultimate? Open your eyes, and look. I gently pried open the eyelid of the gray eye. There was no explosion, only a gray gaze drifting onto the time behemoth. Without any resistance, the doctor's immortal body lost its color, golden gears turning gray, fresh flesh turning to dust. His eyeball core withered and decayed instantly. This was not slaughter, it was irasciridneing his very existence. I refused to accept this. The doctor's desperate roar dissolved into the wind. The 100-meter-tall god collapsed into a lifeless statue crumbling to dust. With this final strike, my body was completely spent. My legs turned to ash, leaving only my torso to hit the ground. The black contract burned away, the eye of finality vanishing. Boss! The badly hurt Meow shifted back, crawling to my side, crying hysterically. Boss, please don't die. I won't be hungry anymore. I'll give you my time, all of it. He frantically tried to pump life force into me, but it was useless. My existence was already paid as the price. Don't cry. I struggled to raise my remaining hand, gently stroking his cheek as my vision faded to black. This deal was worth it. At least you are safe. My hand slipped down, my breath stopping. In this forgotten rift world, I found my long overdue peace. Meow's cries echoed through the ruins. But in the chest of my fading remains, a faint yet stubborn blue light suddenly flickered. It was the human hope I had accumulated over countless trades. The blue light wrapped around the last ember of my soul, sinking like a seed into the underground sea of memories. In the rift of time, there is no sunrise or sunset, only eternal gloom and dead silence. At the peak of that memory dune, I became a faint blue spark, looking as though it could be snuffed out by the howling wasteland wind. But above me, a cat-sized, heavily wounded black beast shielded me fiercely. It was Meow, completely drained and regressed. Curling his battered body, he used his warmth to keep the cold spark alive. Hunger is a time-devouring beast's instinct, and the surrounding dunes emitted the tempting aroma of dead souls' memories. But he kept his jaws shut, tearing his tongue with claws to fight the urge with pain. Hold on, Meow. Do not eat it, he muttered. If I eat Boss, he will really be gone. Who knows how long passed before a swarm of cockroach-like mechanical scavengers caught the scent of weakness, rustling as they crawled over. They wanted to tear the time-devouring beast apart, and even more, devour my soul seed. Dragging his broken leg, Meow bared his teeth like a mother wolf protecting her pup. Get lost! A mechanical cockroach lunged, stabbing his shoulder. Meow did not dodge, crushing its head with his jaws. But more cockroaches swarmed, instantly burying him. Just then, the blue spark of my soul gave a sudden throb, like a heartbeat. A blue light, warm as water, spread out and swept through Meow. It pierced the swarm, stopping the mechanical slaughter. Red lights died as gears reversed, retreating and bowing down as if worshipping a stellar god. In that blue glow, I began rebuilding my bones, vessels, and muscles. Skin. It was reverse entropy, countless memory shards gathering to rebuild me. As the light faded, I slowly opened my eyes. The monocle was gone. No more data streams showing people's lifespans, just a pair of ordinary human eyes. Looking down at my hands, I saw clear palm lines and felt warmth in my fingertips. I clenched my fists. The godlike power was gone. There was only a steady heartbeat and the sharp sting of cold air in my lungs. It really hurts. I rasped the words out, forcing a clumsy smile. Turns out, being alive is a painful thing. I fell to my knees on the sand, pulling the dirty little beast into my arms. Sorry I'm late, Meow. Wrapped in my warm embrace, he trembled. His frayed nerves finally snapped, and he burst into loud tears. I'm not hungry anymore. Meow shifted back into a human boy, clinging to my neck, smearing tears and snot all over me. Boss, you got ugly, but I love you so much. I gently patted his back, looking up at the colossal gears, turning eternally in the sky. Yes, I got ugly, old, weak. But I am back. I reached my hand out, grabbing at the empty air. I lost my magic in my pocket watch, but I am still Yan. Let's go. Carrying the injured Meow, I stared at the faint gateway in the distance. We are going home, back to the mortal world. Even if we have to crawl. 3 years later, Haicheng. A late autumn afternoon, with dappled sunlight. Deep in an old alleyway, there is a small shop with a wooden sign. Watch repair. On the wall, an old clock ticks with a noisy yet comforting rhythm. Wearing reading glasses and a gray sweater, I carefully use tweezers to drop a tiny gear into a watch. My hand is steady, but my fingertips tremble slightly, the lingering toll of nerve damage. Now, I look like any ordinary guy in his mid-30s, my brown hair streaked with silver. Doctors say my organs are decaying like those of a 60-year-old, but I do not care. Boss, I got the vinegar, Meow yelled, bursting in with a plastic bag. Wearing a hoodie and jeans, he looked like a typical college kid. I sighed and took off my glasses. This watch is old Mr. Wang's keepsake for his grandson. If you break it, you pay. Fine, I will. Meow set the vinegar down, popping a white rabbit candy into my mouth. I can just do a night shift at the 9th Bureau. Helping Big Head Lay catch some rogue mutants pays enough for a whole truck of watches. Savoring the sweet candy, the bitterness in my mouth faded. I smiled and shook my head. 3 years ago, we returned, and Meow became a special consultant for the 9th Bureau, catching criminals to earn his special rations. As for me, I became entirely human. A chime rang at the door. Chen Feng walked in, wearing a trench coat. Now he is the deputy chief of the police bureau, his hair graying. Keeping busy, Master Ye? He sat down, fully at home, sliding a worn police watch onto the counter. The usual issue, it stopped ticking. Check it for me? I picked it up and tossed it right back to him. It is not broken, you just forgot to wind it. Chen Feng burst into laughter. Look at my memory. Honestly, I just wanted to steal a cup of tea. Meow brought over a hot cup and went to sunbathe by the door. Chen Feng fell silent, holding his cup. Is it worth it, Ye An? If you had kept some of your power, you could at least live like someone important. Guarding this dusty shop, counting down your daces, it really worth it? I wiped a watch gear with a soft cloth. Director Chen, do you know what time really is? He raised an eyebrow. Philosophizing again? No. I pointed at the clock on the wall. I used to think time was currency, a commodity to buy, sell, hoard, or steal. Back when my time was infinite, I looked down on everyone. To me, they were all just walking corpses. I watched Meow chasing a stray cat by the door. But now, when I wake up each morning, I count my remaining days. This sense of urgency makes my morning soy milk taste richer and the sunset look sweeter. Because it is limited, it is precious. Because we die, life has meaning. I set my tools down and handed the watch back. The gears are fine. You are just too anxious. A watch cannot run too fast or too slow. It needs to be just right. We are the same. Chen Feng stared at the watch, letting out a long sigh. No magic left, but you still talk like a sage. He slapped down a 100 yuan bill. Fine. I will leave you to your peace. He waved and walked out. I slid the bill into my drawer, placing it neatly beside my cash and a long-expired black monocle. Just then, Meow came running in with a red invitation card. Boss! Boss! Sister Hongdu sent this. She and Big Head Lay are getting married. They want us at the wedding. After we repaired her, Hongdu actually awakened a real soul and fell for Lei Lai. I suppose that is a happy ending of its own. I smiled, patting Meow on the head. We will prepare a massive wedding gift. Will you wear that coat? He pointed at the dusty black trench coat on the hanger. I looked at my old uniform of death and shook my head. No. Help me find a suit. Something bright and festive. As the sun dipped low, painting the alley in gold, I stepped to the door to stretch. My bones ached a little, but it felt good. I glanced down at my cheap digital watch. 6 in the evening. Time to close up. I lifted the wooden shutters, slotting them in one by one. Through the remaining gap, I took a final look at this bustling mortal world. The distant chatter, bicycle bells, and laughter used to be worthless noise to me, but now they are a beautiful symphony. Boss, what are we having tonight? I want braised pork, Meow called out from inside. All right, with extra sugar. I smiled, sliding the final shutter into place, locking the dusk outside and keeping life warm within. There is no pawn shop number 8 here, and no time exchange. There is only a mortal named Yeon, living out each ordinary, yet beautiful second.